if you ask me what my favorite horror film of all time is, I would have to go with this one. I have to go with this one. Now, I'll tell you this. So I'll read you the synopsis of the film, and by the way, I don't care that it came out in 2011. It's my favorite horror film, and I'm a Scream nerd, so it's whatever. And like I said, for the most part, I usually don't care how old movies and shows are. If I like it, I'll watch it, and it just is what it is. And if I don't like it and I don't watch it, it's whatever. It's all entertainment. What does it matter? So, this came out in 2011, 11 years after the third movie, and I'm going to tell you what the problem with that is in a sec. It has been many years since the Ghostface killer cut a deadly path through the town of Woodsboro. In order to get over the trauma of those horrific events, Sidney Prescott has written a self-help book. She returns to Woodboro for her book tour and reconnects with old friends Gail Weathers and Dewey Riley. However, Sidney's arrival also sparks the return of Ghostface, putting Sidney and everyone she loves in danger. Now, I'll tell you what one of the biggest issues I had with the Scream movies, or at least what I had assumed a lot of people had with it and what I thought it was at first, is the timing in which each sequel was released, especially after the third one. Now, when you look at other slasher movies, and actually a lot of movies in general that are not slasher or not horror, I mean, even a lot of action films, a lot of comedy movies, dramas, whatever. When you look at a lot of these movies, the sequel is released anywhere between 1 to 3 years later on average. You're talking the Jason movies, you're talking the Freddy movies, Halloween movies, Chucky movies, even, Fast and Furious, Taken, Mission Impossible, Avengers, all that stuff. All that stuff. Even I Spit on Your Grave, which I thought was the worst thing that the horror franchise ever brought us. But I mean, hey, somebody must have liked it because they kept making them, even though they lost money with every movie. But that's beside the point. So, Scream 1 came out in 1996. The second one came out in 97. The third one came out in 2000. Fourth one came out in 2011. Now, a lot of people will make the argument to say, well, it's been so long, so people kind of forgot about it and it kind of dropped and people were no longer interested. But there's so many different things to say about it. And then they didn't release the fifth one until another 11 years later, 2022. Then the following year, Scream 6 comes out. I thought that was a good move. Now, people have always asked me how would I rate the Scream movies. This is kind of biased, but I will say every movie gets at least a 9.5 to a 10. The third one to me gets an 8. So it was great, but the others were greater. I would say the fifth one probably gets a 9.5 and all the others get a perfect 10. I would give Scream 4 even above a 10. I'd give it an 11 or 12. That's just how much I like it. And I've just seen it that many times. Now, I joined a Scream fan page group on Facebook, and I was asking people because I was curious. And because these are a lot of people who follow Scream and a lot of other horror films and movies in general. So I knew I was going to get some type of legitimate answer here. I wasn't just going to get some crappy garbage answer like, oh, well, it just sucked just because they were terrible actors or because nobody knew who they were and it was just boring and I fell asleep in the theater. People walked out. Okay, but that's not telling me why, though. I still want to know why the movie underperformed and why it was underrated. What made this movie drop at the box office, compared to the first three. Now, I laid out all the numbers. The first three Scream movies got between 160 and 170 million at the box office. The fourth one got only 98 million. And the fifth and sixth got 139 and 169, respectively. Now, I said, what happened with Scream 4? Why was this movie underrated? Why did it underperform? What happened? Now, here's one person in the group named Rachel, who I think is really good at breaking things down and provides a good perspective on things. Now, here's what she said. She said, Scream 4 didn't have the marketing drive behind it that was needed for a big box office return. After the runaway success of the first film, they had a huge hype engine for the second and third films. Then, when the fifth movie came out in 2022, when it was ramping up, they built that hype for a long time to push for a big box office, and Scream 6 followed that. But Scream 4, it was far too removed from the first three to ride those coattails and didn't have nearly the marketing push building up to release that they should have had. It was released relatively quietly, and that doomed its box office numbers. And you know what? I've said that about many horror films. Again, with it being a horror film, especially a slasher film, it's not going to get the same type of public attention as with many other movies, especially action movies, especially the superhero action movies, or even like the non-superhero but action thriller type movies. So as I stated, I like stuff like Fast and Furious, Mission Impossible, Taken. And then, of course, you have your superhero stuff, the Avengers, your Thor, your Superman, your Batmans, all that stuff, Marvel and DC stuff. I mean, even The Flash had a huge marketing drive behind it, but still way underperformed at the box office more than almost anybody thought. I mean, you're talking this movie budgeted around $220 million, and the box office was only $270 million. That's a huge fail for a superhero movie. To me, I was surprised about that. That was unheard of. So, and there was something else that I read in the comment section that I actually learned a little bit of something from. I think it's a sad reality that, it's sad that this is a reality, but this is what somebody explained. Here we go. Somebody here by the name of Corey said this. Release date. It was released in April of 2011. It came out the same weekend as animated film Rio. The animated film Hop was still going strong in its third week. The first Insidious movie was still making money at its third weekend. A week after Scream 4 hit theaters, Medea's Big Happy Family hit theaters, and then on the 29th, Fast and Furious 5 hit theaters. It was a crowded April, and all these releases overshadowed Scream 4. It was just a horrible, horrible release date. It should have came out either December of 2010 or December of 2011 or October of 2011. And then I said, and all of those movies that you listed were great. But remember, all those movies were in theaters for at least 2 or 3 months. People had plenty of time to see that movie along with the others. Now, again, like I said, I'm still kind of new to like some of this stuff, like as far as learning about how people look at movies and what makes them make the decision to go see the movie in theater. And like I said, it might sound ignorant, it might sound novice, whatever. But again, I'm just being honest in the questions that I'm asking and, what I'm trying to understand. So then he said, nope, all the movies I mentioned had been in theaters 3 weeks tops. It was absolutely the April release date. Anyone who understands box office will tell you that. This has been long agreed upon as the reason Scream 4 underperformed. Even the studio admitted it was the release date. I said, so even if it was the 3 weeks tops, how did that prevent? Okay. How do all those other movies do at the same time? All the hardcore fans of those movies were going to go see them regardless. Scream 4 probably underperformed due to its poor marketing. A lot of people didn't even know it was a thing until it hit video stores. And of course, here's a BS answer. Scream 4 sucks. One person says, for me, Scream 4 is very good. Now, let's look at the ratings for this movie. So Rotten Tomatoes actually gave it a 60%, which based on a lot of the general public's response to this movie, that's actually higher than I thought they would give it. I thought they would be nice if they gave it even a 50%, but they gave it 60, so enough people who were there, they liked it enough. Internet Movie Database gave it a 62%, and among Google users, we have an average rating of 80%. That's nice. Now, let's look at some of the other reasons in here why a lot of people did not like the movie, but then we're also going to get to the good stuff too. This person right here says, modern stupidity for the 4th time. If I have to say, hold on, let me open that list. Okay. If I have to put it in this way, I'll say they never learned or improved anything from the last 3 movies. Every time there's a copycat killer emerges with stupid motto from Woodsboro murders, still cops can't find any pattern or have any plan of action to catch the killer other than just running and collecting bodies. Even though they already watching Stabathon, people in Woodsboro are also ready to die. How much stupidly as they can get. Some of this is worded a little bit wrong, but I can kind of make this out, so I'm understanding the gist of it so far at least. What more can we expect? Even lead characters are also not ready to save themselves other than script saving. Even after survived from multiple serial killers, Sydney is least bothered to train her up to give a fight for next one. She should have watched Terminator movie Sarah Connor for inspiration rather than wasting time on writing her book. Gail is still behaving like fresh reporter than matured character. Gail is still behaving like fresh reporter than mature. Okay, I think they were trying to say she's still behaving like a fresh reporter rather than a matured character or having been matured as a character. Dewey is sheriff with rookie cop action and brain. Okay, I will say he got a little bit better so he was a little bit better in that movie, in the fifth movie, compared to the first three. Everybody knows in the first three movies, he was a goof. He was clownish. He didn't really know what he was doing. Every time he shot the gun, he always missed. But he actually got it in the fifth movie. So credit to him on that. He almost got it in the fourth movie. But again, luckily he survived that film. Let's see. With that advanced tech, motion cameras and webcams, no one is ready to cast a plan to draw the killer and catch. I don't want to spoil the surprise if they feel it that way about the killer at the end. That is the most foolish model than previous killers had. Who wants to be famous like Sidney just by killing others or manipulating others by their actions? They don't they know the next copycat killer might target them? These movies are descending low, one after another. These movies. Okay, they put these motives, these movies. Okay, they forgot to edit that part. But again, literally, I fast forward many scenes to come to an end because I'm least bothered about who's getting killed anyway. Sidney Prescott, this is a different one. Sidney Prescott didn't carry a firearm. Wes Craven seems to have forgotten a lot of the original trilogy and what made it work. There were additional actions by Gail Weathers and Deputy Hicks that gutted credulity, and insult the audience. The dialogue was well under par for the series, and the interaction among the three legacy characters was perplexingly disappointing and disappointingly perplexing. I'm dumbfounded that Craven put this script to screen. This movie wasn't a typical Scream film. Scream movies have plots and twists and a great whodunit with horror. This movie, I felt like, didn't have a very good storyline, and it was all about racking up the bodies. My least favorite Scream movie by far. Okay, hold on. First of all, this was a great whodunit with horror. First of all, I gotta tell you right now, with some of the other Scream movies, I can at least have a little bit of an accurate prediction on, and sometimes I've predicted correctly, sometimes I've predicted wrong. When I look at the first movie, and by the way, I'm going to spoil it because the movie came out in 2011, so I'd imagine all the horror fans saw it by now. Whether you liked it or not, you at least saw it. And if you didn't, just let you know there's spoilers. So if you plan on watching it and you don't want to hear the spoilers, cut the video off right now. Unless, in which case you don't care, keep watching it. So, in the first movie, it became more and more obvious that Billy was the killer, or at least one of the killers. Because just the way he was talking, what else do I have to do to convince you that I'm not a killer? Why would you even say it like that? It's more like, he's like, listen, I keep trying to tell you I'm not a killer. What do you want me to say? What do you want me to do? But that's not how he said it. So that was kind of a giveaway. We knew it was him. Stu Macher, I kind of figured it out as it got closer and closer. The second killer was about his height. And of course, Matthew Lillard, given his height at the time, that kind of matched that, so that made sense. The second movie, I couldn't exactly predict that it was Mickey Altieri. At first, I didn't think that it was Debbie Salt, whose name turned out to be Nancy Loomis and was revealed to be Billy's mother. There was a point in the movie which was kind of implied that she either was a killer or she knew what was going on or connected to him in some way, shape, or form. The third movie, I don't remember if I even really had a prediction because that one didn't excite me as much. So it wasn't a shock that Roman Bridger turned out to be the killer. It was a little bit surprising to see that he turned out to be Sidney's half-brother. They shared the same mother. They had different fathers. But this fourth movie here, the idea of Charlie being a killer didn't necessarily surprise me, but I was surprised, as a lot of fans were, that Jill turned out to be the criminal mastermind in this one. Because she played that part so well, And she was really perfect at disguising herself as being somebody who was innocent, who was unknowing, who was a victim. And it turns out that she orchestrated all of it. That to me was perfect, and it was well written and well scripted how they did that with her in there and how they ended it. Now, there's questions about, did she really die at the end? We'll talk about that in another video. But I felt that it was very well written. I felt that, I don't think it was terribly acted. I think that the actors and the actresses, that Neve Campbell, Courteney Cox, David Arquette, I think they all did a great job with acting. You also had Hayden Panettiere, you had Erik Knudson, was it Rory Culkin? And, you know, of course, Emma Roberts, quite a few others in there. I think they all did a great job in it. So I think that one thing that we have to emphasize is when you do these type of movies, this is a rule that really applies to all movies and all genres, but especially horror films and especially slasher films, because they already have a low reception rate compared to everything else. As I always state, they get no love and attention from the media and the public. There has to be, as Rachel said, there has to be a good marketing machine behind it. And so when they decided the release date, maybe they didn't know that some of these other movies, maybe they did. I don't know. It's hard to tell. I'm not involved in the movie industry, so I couldn't tell you. Like this other person said, you had Rio, you had Hop, you had a Medea movie, you had a Fast and Furious movie, and you had something else in there, whatever he stated in there. There was something else that was released at that time. Fast, Furious, Medea, oh yeah, Insidious, that were all in theaters at the same time. So that's something that they probably have to look into more in the future. But there's a part of me that almost wants to call for a re-release of the film. I thought it was a great theatrical experience. But of course, they don't necessarily have to do it because, I mean, hey, the movie, it still went above its budget. It wasn't by much. The budget was $40 million. Box office was $98 million. So, I mean, you're talking making, what, $58 million off the movie? Much lower than they expected, I'm assuming. But, hey, at least they still proceeded with 2 movies after that. Overall, I thought it was a great film. I still personally give it a 10 out of 10. I've seen the movie so many times, and I'm going to continue to watch it a lot of times because I just like it that much. It should be available to watch on Paramount Plus. All the other ones are. One more thing I have to comment about that. I don't know why streaming services, I don't know why it's set up like this, but I also put in there that why was every Scream movie available to watch on Paramount Plus except this one? And then a person had sent me a screenshot of their computer or laptop or whatever they were looking on. They went on their Paramount Plus account. It was there. And I said, what state are you in? And I think they said they were either in Illinois or Indiana, whatever. And I said, oh, okay. So it's just not available on mine, which they said, yeah, you know, it just works differently with different states. That explains why when I was discussing the movie Bed Rest with Melissa Barrera from 2022, that I was telling people it was available to watch on Tubi, but then the person commented and said they were in a different state. They said they couldn't see it on there. So I said, okay, well, that might explain it. So besides that, I thought it was a pretty amazing film. And again, this is my favorite horror slasher film of all time. It's going to be really, really difficult for something else to top that. But we'll see. We'll see. Scream 6 came really, really close. Came really, really close. And if they had Neve Campbell and Sydney in the 6th movie, it really would have been a serious question of which movie was better between the 4th and the 6th. But I think Sydney's absence had a lot to do with some people not liking the movie or liking it a lot less than what they expected. I still love that one. I give it 10 out of 10. But other than that, so that's why it underperformed. That explains it. So it was the timing, it was the release date, and it was also the lack of a marketing machine behind it. So Scream 4, check it out. It's available to watch on Stars, you know, if you have Stars, and hopefully if it's available in your state, if, you know, depending on where you live. If not, then you can always rent it on Amazon or YouTube. So that's that. Scream 4. We got other Scream videos coming up.